Once again, we have the amazing, super awesome Toni Wade. I'm so excited that she is coming back for our show. We had technical difficulties the first time, and she obviously had to go on some worldwide cruise with her family while we were gone. But she's back, got a beautiful glow going, and she's willing to come back and do this show with us again. So I'm super excited about that. Toni Wade is a founder and CEO of the HomeQuest Group and the executive director of Project Outreach, a nonprofit that we're going to talk about a little bit today. The HomeQuest Group has successfully acquired and transformed over $3.5 million worth of residential and commercial properties, impacting almost 500 lives. So we're super excited about that initiative as well. We want to talk about that a little bit today. And she does magic while rejuvenating neighborhoods, and she includes the community, and it's a hands-on project, and we're talking about significant change, measurable change, and we're going to talk about that too. And then in 2021, she earned the title of Compassionate Investor for her commitment, and we're super thrilled about that. But most importantly, we're also going to talk about her current movement, her initiative, her community, and what she's doing to include share her secrets with the world, and her ministry in doing that. And then we're going to talk about her TV show that she hosts, um, Live for Free. And we're going to talk about the networks that are hosting that right now, like Roku and TGFX, and so super excited. So super excited. Toni Wade, such a treat to have you back with us. Thank you for being on the show again. How have you been?
You know what? After I had to get some sun in, because it has been a cold winter, but getting away with the family for a few days, even though it was a little stressful because I do have a teenager on a boat,
Yeah.
we were like, I was stressing out, but it was really nice to get away, get some sun, get some R&R in, and still stay focused on the things that I want to get done. So it was nice. It was nice to get away.
And the weather was perfect, right? It was better than Missouri while you were gone.
Definitely better than Missouri. I heard it rained the entire time while we were gone, and then we were just enjoying the sun. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming back. Thank you for coming back on this show. We had so many comments from the first time you were on the show. Um, Toni, it's not easy to do shows like this. It's not easy to be candid, unfiltered, which is what our show is about. But that's exactly how authentic you are. And, you've been so gracious, you've been so kind and so available, so willing. So I'm going to ask you some questions to get us started. And then we obviously want to talk about wherever the show takes us, right? We don't rehearse this. It goes wherever it goes. So let's talk about some pivotal moments first. We're going to talk about embracing personal responsibility, measuring adversity, overcoming some of that as well. Share some pivotal moments when you were forced to take full responsibility for your circumstances, and maybe cause you or led to pivotal changes in your life.
So I can honestly say, I think we all have a lot of pivotal moments in our lives that we can like put a pin in and say, yep, that was that moment. I've got several, some positive, some
Let's
negative.
hear it.
The first one, and I think this was still positive, because I was in corporate America, and in corporate America, I'm a thriver. Like everything I do hard, and to actually be fired, like from a job, like that is something you do not want on your resume, right? And it took a moment for me to process that and say, "Oh my God, I was like fired."
The best thing that could happen to you.
But it was the best thing that could have
Best
ever
thing that could happen to you. Yeah.
this thing. And that's the thing that when I think about that moment, how I was able to overcome and pivot in such a positive way from that experience to the point where today, like if I saw my boss, I'm not going to say on camera his name, but back then I was so upset and frustrated. But today I would kiss him on his lips and say, "Thank you so much for giving me that gift." Because that was a gift that I would have never gotten had it not happened. And I would have never seen what I was capable of doing because I was so dependent on that. And I would have probably held on for dear life. I'd
Right.
probably still be there today, but I'm not. And look at where God has taken me, and He's continuing to take me.
That's forced change right there. It forces you to think different, be different, work different. I'm glad it happened, and and I've had those same experiences, and it's the best thing that's ever happened. Every moment of short-term adversity has led to long-term rewards, so I'm excited about that. Now, your background in education-wise, your undergrad and your postgrad is in education.
Mhm,
That's essentially where you initially, I guess, planted your flag or planted your footprint.
mhm.
So today, you're an entrepreneur extraordinaire. You've led several companies. You've built variety of movements. Um, Tell me how that mental transformation happened as well, to go from educator in academia to educator in entrepreneurial life.
So, being an educator, you're a lifelong learner anyway. Like you're
Okay.
always striving to learn and be better. And I'm still an educator, even though I'm a real estate investor, have run this business like tremendously. I'm still a teacher at heart. That's who I
Okay.
am. So I know that's a gift that God has given me, and to me, I really haven't switched that much. I
Okay.
just do real estate and I teach those things as well. So everything that I've done in that space has required some level of that education that I brought with me. And I'm still doing it today. And as I think about even where I'm going, because I might change slightly in maybe my direction and what I do, but I'm still educating. And that's what I love about what it is that I do. I really haven't left that. It's still there, still a part of who I am.
So my daughter's a teacher, and she just reminded me that teachers work about 190 days per year, and I had to remind her that entrepreneurs work 365. So, sometimes I forget which one had the better deal in that. So, you can understand that, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And actually, there's a lot of educators that would be amazing entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, because I mean, there's people out there who actually do that as a gift, but that is a skill set as well. You really can achieve both just by applying it.
It's interesting. It's a noble profession. It's necessary. It's needed. But to some extent, some people have seen it as a safe route, right? So if you get into teaching, you generally write out the next 30, 40 years of doing that. And that's the path that you go down. So to break out of that and take that crusade into the private sector, which is essentially what you've done,
Mhm.
and then still have the Ministry of Teaching. And we're going to transition into project outreach in a second, but I just wanted to say that not everybody's cut out for that. A lot of people feel that it's hard to have the safe mindset and the entrepreneurial mindset coexist.
Mhm.
So you more often than not, you're either one or the other, right? But you've written both roles and have done it well. So how did you balance that?
Yeah, I can see for me, because I always knew there was something great in me, period, which everyone always
I see
believes.
it too
Yeah. And
in
I
you.
oh, thank you. Well,
Oh,
honestly, look at you. But I can tell you honestly, to navigate that space, because I'm an educator by my core. That's who I am. That's the gift that God gave me, that to the end, I'm going to be taken to the end with me. I just learned how to take that with everything else and wrap it to where it obviously brings me more than I could ever imagine because of how I've wrapped it. And that is I'm like a unicorn, I guess you could think of. I don't do anything safe. I don't think I've ever done anything safe. I've always pushed the envelope. Even in school, I think about growing up and the things I did. I was never okay with missing one thing. I always wanted 100%. Like in school, that was me. So I've always pushed the envelope. So to be an educator,
you were that kid.
yeah, even though it doesn't, it seems safe, but I think I was always meant to be an entrepreneur with those skill sets.
Let's talk about being called in a different direction, right? So you're super talented. You have opportunity beyond belief. You're well sought after. You're very well integrated with different business leaders and verticals, and yet you chose project outreach, um, which it's not the easiest path. It's a necessary path,
Mhm.
but it's not the easiest path. So let's talk about establishing transitional housing, what that is, what it does, how it works, right? But in your role with Project Outreach, what were some of the more challenging setbacks that you faced while developing these housing programs, and how did you overcome them?
So Project Outreach is my nonprofit that
Yep.
works alongside my for-profit. And it was created with the intention solely of being about training. And in that space, I can just say it's very challenging out here for grants. You have to be grant worthy, right?
Yep.
At least coming out the gate, they're not going to just give you a grant just because you say you have this wonderful idea. You have
Now,
to,
when you say it's difficult out here, you're talking Missouri or you're talking in general?
in general, it's
Okay.
at least from my position. Everyone's like, "Well, Tony, how many grants have you had?" None.
Okay.
Thing I've built, we pretty much self-funded everything that we want to do. So all the training that we got, all of those things was created by what the for-profit created. So the for-profit feeds the nonprofit all the time so that they can do the things that need to be done for training. Everything we make pretty much goes right back in. But that's a hard dynamic. The hardest challenge is being that person who gets funding. Now it's to the point where I probably could go for funding now if I want to, but the model has worked where I didn't need to.
Yep.
And I would encourage anybody wanting to get into that space, don't focus so much on getting grants. Just do what you're supposed to do because guess what? He'll provide exactly what you need. He did it for us. So we were able to still do what we were called to do, which was to put the training with the housing. And we are still able to do that successfully between the nonprofit and the for profit.
So were the setbacks then financial liquidity and access, or were the setbacks politics and administration?
Mostly politics and administration. I mean, people who get grants are people who
Yeah.
know people who give grants, and it is a really nice blend in how all that works. I
Yeah.
don't like to get into all of that stuff. I just know I have a work to do. I don't focus on stopping just because I don't have it. We're going to figure out how we can get it, and it was created without having to worry about that.
I agree. And I never want to tell people how to spend their money or how to donate their money, right? There's enough of banter online, whether it's Bill Gates and he donates X number of dollars and everybody else has a comment on where it should have gone or who should have got it instead of this person and that person. And I always think the person donating, it's their business. And any donation is good. And wherever it goes, it's going to do something good for that person. So it's good. But, when you think about grants, you would think, well, wait a second, what's a better cause than creating safe haven, traditional housing, led by a woman, a minority woman? I mean, uh, you would think there's no better perfect storm than that. But then again, you've received. Show me the number again. How much grant funding have you received? Do that again. Yeah, absolutely. Goose egg, right?
Right.
So yeah. But you overcome this by a couple of things. You have some strategies that you use as well. One is you absolutely practice goal setting
Mhm.
and you apply that to both your business and your personal life. So you've emphasized the importance of goal setting.
Mhm.
And can you discuss a time when being a goal setting fanatic helped you navigate through either a professional or personal challenge, and why you would suggest more people try this techniques?
So I've been doing goal setting even when I was at the business I worked at with the company I worked with. I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
it on
Where
camera.
you got fired from?
The one I got fired from,
Where you got fired from?
right. I was practicing goal setting back then. I learned a lot of my business acumen around that. So when I lost my job, I had to, I mean, I jumped into like what I knew, what they taught me. We got into the process of creating SMART goals so that we could be able to navigate what we need to navigate. We created long range business goals that helped us achieve what we needed. So that really helped me a lot. That was how we were able to get to where we are today, was we started that. And we do it regularly as a part of our practice today.
Okay. And what about personal life? What about how are we organized that way too?
I wish I could show. Look, yes, 100%. I'm gonna show you, even though I
You
have.
can show us. We're on camera. We can see it all. You should show it to us.
So I use it for not just my business life, but my personal life as well. We have these all over my house. I have them taped in places in my bathroom. We have it in my area, wherever we are. We are constantly creating our vision map, and our goals are based off of this.
I was
And
going to ask you about that. Is goal setting the same as having a vision board?
they go
Um,
they go together.
yeah.
So when you look at your vision board, like how do you, I mean, clearly they say when you speak it and the affirmations, all those things do happen, but you have to have goal setting in there to make these things happen. I can sit and talk all day long about how I want to have multiple streams of income generating $100,000 or more every month. I could say that all day long, but what things am I doing to make that happen?
Okay.
They go together. People think they don't have to put the work in. They could just create a vision and poof, it happens. No, it doesn't happen like that. You
So I
do have
want to talk about that for a second. I grew up in obviously with the same mindset. I was surrounded by the right mentors who told me about those things as well. I've always had a vision board. I've always believed in it. And you know what? Sometimes you don't always hit your vision right away. But I've looked back, and this is what's funny. I did an exercise with this with my daughter here recently. I pulled out a vision board from the attic from 15, 20 years ago. And I'll tell you what's bizarre. At the time that I wrote that, created that vision board, right? Picture montage and everything. A lot of what I put on were what seemed unattainable, with either destinations around the world or types of houses, types of cars, types of the way we traveled, and those kind of things. And here's what's bizarre. I pulled it out 20 years later. We had hit all those goals,
exactly.
right? We had hit all those goals, and sometimes more often than not, repeatedly. So, but at the time that I did it, there was a big part of me that didn't quite believe it. I wanted to believe it, but they were more like wish lists than they were vision boards. But
Yeah.
20 years later, I'm looking at it and I hit every one of them.
And that's what happens. And that's why I keep mine. Like and I do mine electronically so that I can always, some people like the hard copy, that works too.
Yep.
But when I have my visual, like I can go back for years and see how I built it out and see the
Yep.
things put on here, not just business goals, but my family goals, or how much I love my husband, or how I'm the love of my family. And I put quotes that go with them, affirmations I speak out loud. Like all those things are here. Those go alongside with the goal setting. So we're setting goals on a regular basis, not just related to business, but also our personal life.
Absolutely. I'll tell you this. The only two goals I probably didn't hit in my life is more muscle and more hair. But outside of that,
Yeah, good job.
outside of that, I've hit everything else, and I love it, and I will continue to do it. I absolutely believe in its power. So, for people listening in, and they're thinking, "Oh, I've heard that whole Grant Cardone stuff. I've heard that whole Tony Robbins stuff. None of that really works. I'll do vision boards all day long, and I'm still hitting the 40 hours, 40 days, 40, for 40 years." That's for other people. That's not for me. I'm a realist. I say it like it is. I keep it real. This. What do we say to those people?
So I always be like, I love you. I mean, because like at the end of the day, you can't change anybody. You can only change you. And people who come from that space, I'm not here to, I mean, I'll do my best to share and help elevate, but usually those comments are said to do what? Bounce back and hit you. I don't
Sure.
have anybody say, take me off of where we are going. And I can love you from afar. There are people in my life that used to be in my life, no longer in my life, and I love them. But we've moved on because I have to stay around. Like I protect my energy that's around me. I protect where I'm at. And when I find that type of thing happening where it's bouncing off, I will counter it first. But at the end of the day, we ain't gonna go back and forth because you're not gonna change where I'm thinking where I am. I stay focused on where I need to be. I love you and I keep it moving. But I don't want to waste a lot of my energy trying to counter what somebody's saying about what does or doesn't work. I know who I am and I know whose I am, and that's what I rock with.
Of course, and I love that. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a author called Bruce Wilkerson. He wrote a book called The Dream Giver, and in that book, he talks about he chronicles a developed character that he's taking through this evolution of mindset adjustment. And in the
Mhm.
process, he encounters these barriers in life, and it's people that are closest and nearest and dearest to him. And their job is to get in the way of his dreams. And
Mhm.
it's not because they don't love him, it's because they do. And they're trying to protect him from either disappointment or failure. So their governor instinct is to say, hey, Toni, limit your dreams, dream less, dream lower, so that way you're not disappointed when it doesn't happen. And we don't want to see you hurt. So when it comes from a place of love, um, talk about that for a second. When people that love you want to restrict your vision or your goals or your dreams or your drive because they're trying to protect you from hurting yourself.
So I don't see it like that. That's just my perspective. I see it as a
Okay.
way to not for them to see their failures and their shortcomings. See, and that's why I say my mindset, I'm always going to be that positive person speaking positively. When that negativity impact, like it hits me, I don't have time to hear it. I don't even look at disappointment and failure the way that they look at
Okay.
disappointment and failure. That's one more step further for me to get close to where God wants me to get. Because at the end of the day, He's the one who perfects me. He is the one who, those things, when those things happen, they make me better. It's not a failure, it's a lesson. Like it's how you even frame it. So when someone says they love me, and they're trying to protect me, I can't even see that being, you're going to protect me by then telling me that, hey, don't dream. Like
Right.
they don't even go hand in hand with me. So that's why I really don't gravitate to that space. I
Okay.
honestly believe that you take every opportunity and you make it the best that you can make it for you. Those are your experiences that take you to the next level.
Well, we already said at the first interview, you hog all of God's attention. He's got no time for the rest of us. So, you need to back off a little bit so we can
He
get
wants
some.
for all of us to enjoy. That's why I love. He's no respect of persons. He's going to shower on all of us.
You're too funny. Oh, all right. So going back to project outreach and some of working through the administration, working through the minutia, developing these vision of trying to do so much good, at the
Mhm.
same time recognizing that for that good to continue, it needs to be profitable. So you can regenerate and redistribute and recycle monies back into the program, right? So you know if I gave you 1 million, you can help X number of people. If I gave you 10 million, you could help more. If I gave you 100 million, you can make an impact. So we understand that.
Yeah.
But have you ever encountered biased or in your professional journey? Um, what strategies have you put in place to promote inclusion, diversity, acceptance within your organization?
So, because I'm always for, because I'm anyone who wants to come and be a part of what I'm building,
Yeah,
and for anyone who wants to come and be a part of that. So, as it relates to bringing in inclusion and diversity, because we even pull from the people
yeah,
who we help. And I can't imagine any better form of inclusion
yes,
is when you can include somebody who might have lived experience to come and work with you and you help grow them up in that space. You help them
yes.
recognize who they are. When you can do that, that is powerful. And to me, so that's why I said, whoever comes, let them come. That's we live by the perfect example, and by operating that way, I include whoever wants to come and hear. I don't never want to discriminate against anyone who doesn't want to have that. I'm always about inclusion.
So that being said, and we're going to thread on something that might some people might find sensitive these days, and I
Mhm,
recognize all of that. I respect everyone's position. I respect everybody's opinions.
mhm,
I often think that sometimes we've become a culture where we only read headlines and not the narratives. So, and we run with headlines thinking it means more than it does. So with
mhm,
all the changes that we're currently seeing, or initiatives, I wouldn't say even say changes, with all the initiatives that are currently being re-strategized, right?
mhm.
Is there more or less or an indifferent approach to using your platform to encompass more DEI initiatives, or is it not even a factor because the only thing that matters is the I, which is the inclusive, which means everybody is welcome?
Yeah, I think that only really matters is the I. Who am I? It's not my job to, whether I might agree with people or not,
Yes.
that's them. It's not me. And I love on people the way that I'm supposed to love on people. So I am inclusive for anyone who wants to be a part of what it is that I'm building, or who might have a different opinion than me, or have a different belief as I do. That does not change who I am. So I think when we can look at it from that perspective versus looking at it as, well, something's wrong with you because you're not this, or our
Yeah.
belief, those are simply ours. Who are we to impose that on anybody else? All we can do is be inclusive, and everything will go as it needs to go. I'm not going to get into that with most people. I don't.
So when people say just love everybody and treat everybody with respect, um, you actually walk that walk.
Yeah, 100%. And
I've seen it. I just wanted it on air because we want the whole world to know that's how you're driven.
yeah.
You, I watched you. I watched you at a conference, and I watched the way you embraced the community. And there was unfiltered for sure, but more importantly, it was respectful and kind and generous. And then with what you're doing with your program, which we're going to talk about in detail this afternoon, with what you're doing with the program and being willing to share the secret sauce. You see, here's what's unique about your program. One is you crack the code. Two is you're actually sharing the code. In the tech world, they'll call that like open source technology. You're sharing the code because you just see a greater good in more people advocating for the same programs in all of their cities.
Hmm.
You don't see it as a threat to profitability. In
Okay.
fact, it think rising tide lifts all ships. So you're so willing to do that. So let's talk about your creativity, and how you overcome entrepreneurial hurdles. So here's the question. In your article that you wrote and published on creativity, you mention it's like a muscle that needs to be exercised. How has fostering creativity helped you overcome your obstacles in your entrepreneurial ventures?
So when I think of creativity, I think of innovation. I'm truly an innovator, and I am very creative. It's never a no, it's always how. So no matter what I'm faced with, I always want to figure out how we can make something work. I don't always ask permission. We're going to figure out how we can make it work. And that's pretty creative in several ways. And through that creativity, I'm able to innovate as well as elevate. And that's why I think that that's what makes me probably different than most. But I've always been that type of person to try to figure out how we can do something versus being told, oh, yes or no. And then if I see something, okay, we're going to just figure it out. But I think creativity, learning how to then continuously be creative, continuously get into that space, you now are practicing, like it becomes easy for you. It's so easy for me sometimes and it's almost scary how I'm able to create things. Or if I come up with an obstacle here, we're gonna pivot and go over here, but we're gonna figure out a way to get there, wherever it is where we're going, because I know where I'm going. And I have not changed that much in my direction in where I'm going. But I'll just say it has shifted slightly. But when I look at what God has created and what He's given me from like years ago,
Yeah.
like I'm looking at it today, I'm like, you gave that to me 5 years ago, all because of that creativity and innovation to get me to where I am right now.
Well, you're also humble enough to recognize where you have these gifts and where it came from. So, that's missing in a lot of people sometimes. They're often thinking that, you know, they're the shits, right? So they and I can say that it's radio. But they're always thinking that, hey, it's me, it's my talent, it's my hard work. I've paid the price. It's always me, 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 and
Mhm.
therefore all these rewards are due me because of how special they are. well, you haven't taken any credit for the success you've had and the success you continue to pass on. So, like I said, you need to stop hogging God's ear so we can all have a crack at him. Um, all right, I'm going to pivot right now. I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to, and this is a loaded question. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
As the founder and CEO of the HomeQuest Group, you are a woman, B, a Black woman, and C, you're changing the way real estate works, the utilization of real estate, the acquisition of real estate, the distribution of real estate. Um, some of that may or may not. I mean, I'm hoping the answer is no, but I'm guessing it's going to be some yes. You've experienced some hurdles, some raised eyebrows.
Oh,
You've experienced maybe a little bit of a tougher door to break through than, if you, I'll just say this because again we're on radio. If you had a penis, so let's talk about that for a second.
oh yeah. So tons of examples of this. I will just say this.
That's great. We got nothing but time. I want to hear it.
Well, the first hurdle, this is when I was just doing flipping, right? And we were doing so well in flipping. This may be like my fourth or fifth flip. And this should have been a slam dunk. Like it was a no brainer. We were going to make at least, I want to say 150, 200,000 netting that from the deal.
Yeah.
Perfect deal. I did it perfectly in one of the more affluent areas here in the area. And I hired a guy that I had to fire. He was a white male.
Yeah.
And when he got my permit in this municipality, and he literally had a paper that looked like crayons that he drew on it, and the planner stamped it and approved it. When I fired him, I didn't know at that time that that plan that belonged to him. So I had to reapply. I'm like, okay, cool, reapply. Long story short, because you already know what happened in your mind, you already know what's happening.
See where it's going.
It took me a year and a half in a deal that should have only lasted a couple of months, a year and a half, because the planner, not only did he say, no, that's not acceptable. Now, my plan was better than his. I'm pretty savvy. I put together a nice little, beautiful,
Sure.
turned it in. He rejected me at least 3 times, told me I had to hire an architect. So I went and hired an architect, a Black male, that he then took him through 6 months, approving him with a sealed. All of this was going on. Long story short, it took me a year and a half for us to finally get out of this craziness. And I'm telling you, that was the craziest, something I should have profited. We lost like $80,000.
Yeah, it
That
cannibalized your profits from holding it longer than you wanted to.
Yeah, that's when I knew, okay, you won't get me the next time. You got me this time, you ain't get me the next time. So the next time we actually did this, I had somebody else go in and do my paperwork that was on my payroll, that he didn't look like me. And he
Yeah.
wasn't a female either, because that played a part as well. I heard not only was it the fact that I was Black, but a female coming in their municipality, they
Yeah.
weren't having it. And those are the things you have to learn, unfortunately, the hard way. And we learned it the hard way.
So let me ask you this. Nothing sounds right about what you just experienced, right? Nothing sounds right because it's not based on merit, it's not based on ability, it's not based on a systemic system. It was purely, we can all call it what it is today, right? He just didn't like the fact that you were coming in acting like you were better than anybody else, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, do we just find workarounds and move on? And I'm saying that's what I would do in business, right? So now, granted, there's two things that you and I are different. I'm a male, and you're gorgeous. So I obviously fall short, way short on that. But that being said, I've experienced plenty of challenges sometimes with the way I either look, sound. I grew up in a different country. I culturally don't fit in anywhere necessarily. And when you live in Orange County for 30 years, you just have to try that much harder.
Yeah.
But I did it because I never wanted to change anything. I didn't think I had the power to. So I just found workarounds and pushed through, right? Is that the secret to how we move forward? Because that's what I did.
It's unfortunate, but that's the only thing you can do when you're dealing in a society that this is
Yeah.
embedded in. You can't, I mean, you learn how to navigate well, and I did, and I do.
Let's talk about competition. Let's talk about how they, and I'll share something with you. We're doing a conference in Houston here next month, and it's being organized by one of our channel partners on our other companies that's hosting the event.
Mhm.
And she's very influential in the community. Her conference revolves around helping people find out about real estate investing. And for those who don't know how to get started, she does a kind of a intro to, here are some basics on how you get started, and then here's some middle ground, and then here's some advanced, right? So she does that over a weekend, and she's invited us to come in and share some of what we're doing on some of our other channels, our other platforms that we operate. But here's what I've learned in just working with her in recent months. She outworks everybody. She is smarter than anybody I've met in that space. She hustles. She wakes up earlier, sleeps later, and works every minute in between. But I've heard her introduce her concepts with this preface: I am a Black woman.
Mhm.
And then she finishes her thought.
Mhm.
And I know you haven't met her, so you're going to make a guess as to where she's coming from.
Mhm.
Um, what would some of those ideas look like from you?
Some of the ideas from me
Why
is
why the need? Why would she feel like that is something that she always needs to identify with or clarify, so that people take her seriously or at least respect her work ethic? Because she outworks everybody.
yeah. I know that that's just a part of who we are. We were raised that way. It's unfortunate that we also have to lead with that too. Like, you have eyeballs. Like,
Yeah,
you can look at me and see exactly who I am. I am a Black female, and
gorgeous.
a gorgeous Black female. No, but I don't feel that this is me personally. Everybody has their own thing, but my merit and the things that I do proceed who I am. Like, if I were to sit here and talk about all that I do and it was a blank screen,
Yeah,
that should not change whether or not you decide to rock with me or not, or whatever, because I find it more of a limiting thing. When I say limiting, I'm talking about in the vein of, I'm not going to say that up front, because you know what you're seeing. You should value what it is that I'm saying,
yeah.
what I'm showing you, and you see my work ethic. So I have the same work ethic, and it's not whether I'm Black, white, whatever. This is Toni Wade. This is my work ethic as Toni Wade. So, but I understand why we have to do it sometimes, because we're in a society that this is built off of, you know, and
Well,
there's
I have
positive
so
connection
much.
to that.
Yeah, and I have so much appreciation for what you just said, because I know it's exhausting. You have to outwork everybody else, try harder than everybody else, but it's also what, it's made you stronger. It's made you better. It's made you love more, be kinder longer. It's made you care more about the people you work around. I'm looking at project outreach that you're doing right now. You're transforming cities to be able to create level playing fields for the marginalized.
Yeah.
These are people that neighborhoods have forgotten about as they drive by them every single day, right? And we
Yeah.
all have a stigma for that. We all have a term for that. Oh, guy's lazy. Oh, go get a job. Or just snap out of it, figure it out. I had to. And then there's you, and you're saying, I'm not even going to ask what the challenges are. I'm just going to provide a solution.
Right.
And then there's Toni T. Wade that goes even further by saying, I've cracked the code on how we do this and build an inclusive community that gives people hope and second chances, or third or fourth or fifth chances. I'm not even counting anymore.
Yeah.
And not only that, I'm going to teach anybody that wants to learn how to do this
Mhm.
with love and profitability.
Mhm.
Talk about this program, Toni. Talk about the school.
So I love transitional housing maximized because of what it can do. It's more than just transitional housing. It's truly taking that as a start that you maximize on, like you build on that. People don't understand that we have a serious issue as it relates to our housing and what is coming. Affordable housing doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah,
Most landlords can't even and they can't do landlords cannot do anything to change that fact because
yeah,
this is the economy we're in. So then you have all these options that are no longer available for affordable housing. You've got a lot of seniors who are now getting ready, the baby boomers, they're going to now add to that. You've got people who are dealing with
yeah,
mental illness, disabilities, all these other things that are impacting that. And you've got people coming out of incarceration. Like this here is a real problem that is happening in our society. And I think it's going to go even another level because I even heard that with the things that are happening with AI, that's going to now start replacing jobs. That now people are no longer like we're talking about the working homeless. People don't know who the working
yeah,
homeless are. The working homeless are the people who still work a job full time with unstable housing. They're either living in their cars or they're surfing because they can't afford, or something happened to the credit. Like this is what's really happening to people. That is going to culminate. And because it's going to culminate into almost, I hate to even use the word perfect storm, but it's going to happen.
yeah.
We have to do what we can do to help that. In our transitional housing maximized community, that's what we do. We
So
provide options.
it's inevitable, right? You just said it correctly. As much as you don't want to say it's a perfect storm, but when we look at the largest population that is aging right now, right, the baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, the
Mhm.
largest population of an aging population, which means less people, more people exiting the work environment versus going in. Compound that with the AI revolution, however that is being used, and admittedly, it does have its place, obviously, and and much like technology, evolution changes things, right? So what once was a cab driver is now an Uber driver. Um, we don't get to evolve and maintain status quo. Things change,
Yeah.
and for those who don't recognize changing times, they get left behind.
And that's what's going to happen.
And
That
with
is
the speed of change now, you can get left behind very quickly just by blinking once or twice.
Mhm.
So I love what you do and I love who you do it for. I respect so much that it also has a profitability to it. I'm all for free enterprise. I'm a capitalist to the core. So if we can make as much money as we can humanly possible, I'm all for that. It's up to everybody as to what they want to do with the money they make.
Yeah.
That, to me, money just makes you more of who you are, right? If you have good character and morals, it just makes you have better character and morals. If you were, I'm going to say this because we're on radio, if you were a dick to begin with, it just made you a bigger dick. I mean, that's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a good way. Um, so, because I know you picked up on that too.
That's a
As it
little
came
bit.
out of my mouth, I heard it.
Yeah, it did.
And in case anybody missed it, I just anyway talking about dick sizes. Anyway, so I'm going to say this. Tell us about the school, the motivation behind it, and then make sure we understand how we get access to it, and make sure we know what the expectations are on how we can really take advantage of what you're sharing with all of us.
So in my community, you can get to it at tonischool.com.
Spell it.
TONISKOOL.com.
That's why I asked you
We
to spell it because I read it the other day and I know it's come with a K in it.
it's
So
with a K.
Tony School, TONISKOOL.com. And what happens when they get there? What can they expect to see?
So the first thing they'll see is this amazing video of me talking about what the community is, why it was
Perfect.
created.
Well,
So
they don't want to watch this video of us talking about, appengers and stuff. So, yeah.
but clearly understanding the community you're joining, and it's for free. At least right now we're keeping it free, my goal, because I just want to bring everyone who wants to impact
Yeah.
ending homelessness. I don't care if you might not even want to get a property, you might not want to be a compassionate investor, but you want to partner with somebody, or you have a service that you can provide to us, because this is where the hub will be, that we will then begin to educate people in this space.
Okay.
And that's what I really want this community to do. It's more than about money. Even though money is a part that happens, like when you set this housing up, it can be profitable, but that's not what we're focused on. We're focused on the mission. Once you focus on the mission, you'll get what you say, commissions. So we're okay with those things happening, but I want to make sure that we got the right people in that environment who are going to learn. We got courses we're setting up. We will have a separate community for the paid community, just for people who really
Okay.
want to get the things they need done. But this is where we all come together and we learn together about how we can end homelessness and the things
So
that impact it.
I love that we're mission before commission. But understand something, I'm very pro commission. I love making money. I love helping people make money, and I want to make all of it. I want to make more of it, right?
Yeah,
And I think it just allows us to make decisions with that because it empowers us to go make a difference. We can't impact change unless we are first sustainable ourselves, right?
exactly.
So I love the mission, but don't get me wrong, I love the commission too.
You need both.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the expectation. If I embrace this, or anyone listening embraces this program, and they all rush to Tony School, ToniSchool.com, and they all register to at least be exposed to what you're sharing and the processes. Talk about some of the secrets and techniques and hand holding step by step, soup to nuts, that they can expect to get out of this program.
So the 8 steps that I've created, because I've been doing this for 14 years,
Yep.
and
Doing
what I
it successfully for 14 years.
very successfully. So with that, I share with you my steps. Most people do it in reverse. They go get a property and then they're trying, like, we want to get the property first. You want to understand who it is you want to serve in the first place. So we
Okay.
spend time making sure you understand who you want to serve, making sure you've done your research related to that population. You've connected with the resources that you need. You've started identifying specific things that are necessary for that niche that you want to serve. Then we start talking about what type of property you need to get. So because we do it in that reverse order, that is significant, as well as when you're looking at how you fund it, because we talk about being profitable, but you want to make sure the niche that you're going after, how are you going to get the funds related to that? And make sure that you're maximizing that. And there's
Okay.
ways that you can layer that versus just having a self pay. Most people self pay, but there are other ways in which you can get funding and going for funding that will allow you to layer what you're doing for the services that you're offering in that transitional housing facility. So those things are key, and that I go through in my training. I give people as much as they need to just get it done, but at the end of the day, they've got to move the mark. They've got to move a step further toward making that happen, and we
Yep.
start there in the free community.
And you share all of this. You all the secrets unveiled, right? And
Yep.
there's a hope that there's a bit of a pay it forward model because, like you said, right now you couldn't do this big enough and fast enough to make that difference. So the more people on the program, then the concepts could be more widespread. I mean, if what you started could be rampant in every city in the United States, that's what we want, right? Three,
That,
four, 500 communities doing this. There's 19,000 zip codes in the United States.
and I want all of them.
Yeah,
I want all of them.
yeah,
And you can think about the power of having all of them, because it's, so imagine the affordable housing options you're going to open up, because you got individuals who are providing housing for people who need that type of housing. And then you're providing them training. What type of training are you providing them? The same training that I teach. That's why I'm so passionate about Be
yeah.
Sovereign, which is what we're building out ultimately, is a program that allows for us to then educate the people who are in the properties so that they can now pay it forward. So the people who help as first compassionate investors, they're people who are staying in their house that are learning to also become compassionate investors, passing and giving it forward. And you protect their housing in the process. That's the part that I know is going to change the climate that we have right now in the United States as it relates to affordable housing and homelessness.
It couldn't happen fast enough, big enough, quick enough. So I'm so excited for this. And at tonyschool.com, TONISKOOL, I'm just going to sound like an infomercial on TV, right? Tonyschool.com, like liberty, 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 right? So Tony School, TONISKOOL.com. When they get there and they register and they now have access to whatever you're doing and it's in a structured environment, is it an on time, on target, on demand setup, or are these curriculums? Are they special times and dates? What's going on here?
Well, initially, because in the free community, I offer 2 live weekly calls. So our goal is to hit one on the weekend, one during the weekday, so you can get what you need to get. The
Okay.
actual community dictates what they get on those Tuesdays and Saturdays. So I ask them, a few days before, hey, where are you at right now? The people who are engaged will be the ones who show up. Those are the ones I focus on. I could probably have 1 million people in this group at some point. We just reached our first milestone, by the way, 100 membership. We have 100 people in our membership.
Congratulations. That's huge.
We just launched.
Yeah,
So
a few days ago.
yeah, a few days ago. So now that we have our launch, we have 100 people who are interested. I'm going to cater to those who are going to show up because it's about pushing the needle. I can't make everyone do it. I make it available. Those who will show up, and that's what we're going to create for the training. After that, when they come to these weekly calls, then I'm going to keep pushing them forward because at
Yep.
the end of the day, people just need support and to believe that they can do this because they can and they're going to learn from the best. That's me. So I'm here to teach them the
You
best
are the best.
exactly on how to set this up properly and get them focused in what they've had a desire in their hearts to do all along. And I'll just say this. I know I'm long-winded, but this piece is important. Most people either find something that they're passionate about and they start taking action on it, but they just don't know how. Or you've got people who have worked a job, they're making good money, successful, all these wonderful things, but say, I'm still missing something. Those
Yep.
are the people I want. Those are the people I want in my community learning how to take it to the next level in transitional housing.
And it's this is what I'm going to share with you, and I know you already know this, and you take it for second nature. You're dabbling in a program that's going to open up the eyes of the community to not just traditional transitional housing. They're going to learn in general how real estate works. They're going to learn in general how to acquire properties at a discount, and they're going to learn about flipping properties. They're going to learn about finance strategies. They're going to learn about being able to fund investments with OPM. Um, so it's yeah, we're talking transitional housing, but to understand that space, they're going to learn so much about all these verticals that is going to force them to start creating a vision board so they can freaking go do some fun things in their life around the world as they make a difference.
Exactly. It's all about the impact.
And it blows my mind that we have to somehow trick people into coming to these programs because
Mhm.
you have somebody who's walked the walk for the last 14 years that is saying, hey, I've made a difference in my community and I've made a bunch of money in the process. But I'll tell you what, I can't do it fast enough, big enough, quick enough. I'm going to invite anybody who wants to learn this. What are you going to learn, public? You're going to learn everything you can about real estate because I'm going to show you how I did it, except for the mistakes. You can skip all of those because I'm going to share those with you too.
Exactly.
You're going to learn everything about creative financing because that's how I did it. I didn't have all the funding I needed when I started, so I had to get creative. I'm going to share those secrets with you as well. You're going to learn how to scope out and find development properties that you can go in and have margins in your favor so you're not buying top and you're not selling low. You're going to learn all these things. All you got to do is go to tonyschool.com, TONISKOOL.com. For the love of God, this is where everybody needs to go after today's call because what's the worst thing that could happen out of investing a few hours in this community? You're going to come out smarter.
Mhm.
You're going to come out thinking more like the girl who got fired from her job,
13
who
years.
wants to now kiss her ex-boss on the lips because he made her different. You're going to learn about how people had to overcome adversity, racial, gender bias to make things happen regardless. And some of us may not have those challenges, which means we just have shortcuts now because we don't have to deal with those things. As a
Yeah.
male, I don't have to deal with gender bias. I can speed through that gate, right? Still brown though, so I got to deal with that, right? But
Mhm.
so where do we go for this? Oh, let me tell you. TonySchool.com. ToniSkool.com.
Like, I'm hiring you, sir. You're just gonna work with me right over here. We're just gonna make that rock.
Tony, I say this, I've said this to you offline, and I'll say this to you publicly as well. Um, the grace that you operate from, the level of love that drives your mission, I feel it when I'm around you. I felt it the first time I met you, and it wasn't, met you recently. That exchange was immediate. I have a lot of respect for the way you not only operate, but I also, without us having to address it on this interview, I know the challenges that we didn't get to talk about today,
Mhm.
um, that you've just either buried or don't let it affect you anymore because you're so focused on moving forward and you figured out a way. And I love you and respect you for that. We want to be a part of it in any capacity. We want to help move this agenda forward. We want to create stages and platforms for you to share this vision. And here's the bizarre thing: there's so much more to business than what we talked about in the last hour on the show because you and I are engaged in those businesses.
Exactly.
So this is
Hmm.
just the beginning.
Yeah, we haven't even touched the surface. This is just the beginning.
Tony T. Wade, you are just remarkable and impressive. I adore that you were willing to do this show again with us. I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties we had the first time around. Um, I'm a girl dad, right? So I know you can't say the same because you have a studly son. But I'm a girl dad. So I love celebrating women and I love examples of strong, loving, kind women that just killed with kindness and in the process make a crap load of money. I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too. And I've really enjoyed being on the show a second time. This has really been a joy, and I'm looking forward to the many more that we're going to do because this is just the beginning, as I said earlier.
You're awesome, and I'll tell you this: we're coming to a city. We're coming to Missouri next. We're going to do this show live, and we're going to change lives, and we're going to transform communities
Yes,
with all kinds of business strategies as well. So I'm excited to be a part of that too.
I'm ready for it, and I'm ready for you to come on with it.
TonySchool.com, ToniSkool.com. Jump on board, register, and we're going to see all of you at the top. Tony T. Wade, we love you. Thank you for being so kind and gracious. And we're excited to see you in this journey. Keep us a front row seat. We want to see how this story plays out.
I love it. I'll keep the seat warm for you.
Thank you kindly.
Awesome. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.